Okay, we are live. Welcome, welcome,
Hey,
everyone.
good to see you.
And if you can just put in the chat that you have joined us so that we know that you are hearing us right now, we'd appreciate that. Okay. So, welcome again. I am Melissa Miller, and we are happy to be here with you today for our Mastermind series. So I'm just waiting for someone to just post so that we know that you're hearing us. Okay, great. So we encourage you to share this broadcast as well as join in on the discussion in our chat today. Our current series is Turning Adversity into an Advantage, and this is a John Maxwell series. Hello, Alan Sky. Thanks for joining us. So we really enjoyed our last discussion, and all those that reached out to us, thank you for letting us know that you were encouraged by our broadcast. And we really look forward to sharing again today. So I would like to introduce our moderator, Robin Lewis. He is the executive director of the John Maxwell team and owner of Robin Lewis Insurance. And our panelist, Michelle Hosang, she's with C2 Financial, and she's joining us here today, as well as Dwayne Stewart. He's with MMG at EXP. Thank you for being here. So before I turn it over to Robin, I would like to point out that the great thing about these talks and this discussion is that none of us get these questions ahead of time. So there's no prepared speeches, just some real dialogue today. So, and with that, I'm just going to hand it over to you, Robin. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Yes, and I appreciate you sharing that. Good to see you guys again. It's good to be together. And yes, I think the best part of actually getting together is the rich discussion that we do have. We literally find, or I know I find myself, you're going to find that for the most part, these guys are going to be doing the talking. I'm going to be sort of facilitating this evening. And each time I've gotten together with this group, I have been encouraged, inspired. I've learned, I've taken so much notes. It's really added value to my life. And we thought, well, why not have some of our friends take a peek in to what a leadership roundtable might look like. So yeah, nothing rehearsed. We're actually going to do it just like we normally would. And the only difference is that you get to participate. Those of you out there watching us on social media. So I'm going to go ahead and play a short little video by John. We're in a series, as Melissa mentioned, and John is going to share two perspectives this evening, guys, and then we'll come back and have some discussion around it. Okay?
Okay, great.
All right. So let me go ahead and get that over. All right.
So true.
Yes. All right. That's really good stuff there, huh?
Very good.
Pretty interesting story down here. So we'll just do a quick little recap and then we'll jump into some questions here. But John shared two perspectives today as we focus in on, how we view things determine how we do things. It's about perspective. So the first perspective he shared is that we should reflect instead of react to adversity. During times of uncertainty, one of the easiest traps that we can fall into is simply reacting to everything around us. And John cautions us to that and suggests that instead of reacting, that we should reflect. And then he shared some things that he reflects on a daily basis. First of all, he reviews by himself, just kind of gets by himself for a few minutes and asks, what happened in my world today? Then he asks questions of himself, like, what did I learn? What can I do differently? Then he talks to himself, self-talk. What do I need to hear from myself, right? What does myself need to hear? Then he directs himself. So the idea there is not just to reflect, but to turn that reflection into productive action. And the last part is that he makes sure to take action. And then the second perspective you shared is that adversity makes you relatable to others. Adversity makes you relatable to others. Practicing reflection will help you to better see your successes and failures each day, which will produce a spirit of authenticity and humility within you. And that authenticity is what will draw people to you during times of crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And so he talks about adversity naturally closing the gap um, between people because everyone shares in the struggle, if you will. So really good lessons for us to focus on. And so to try to dive into this a little bit more now, Michelle, I'm going to come to you first, and I have a question for you. Um, in your opinion, why does crisis prompt a reactive approach in so many people? In your opinion, why does crisis prompt a reactive approach in so many people?
I think because a crisis is not something you necessarily expect in terms of timing. You can try to prepare as much as you can for the unknown, kind of having a rainy day fund or, we live in South Florida, having, some sort of hurricane supplies available. But at the same time, even though you can somewhat prepare, when it actually happens is, unknown and the extent of it. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little feedback. I don't know. It's a little distracting.
Oh, for you?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I mean, we hear you fine, actually, but.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I think because of that, it's, it's just one of those things where even though you can prepare a little bit, it does take a little bit of, reactive type of behavior because it's like, well, all right, what do I do now for this unique crisis or situation? You know what I mean? So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of are not prepared, so you tend to sort of just do what comes to you, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
even if you are prepared, though, I think that's the point because a crisis is not something that's going to be predictable in terms of what it will look like or the timing, right? So you can prepare as much as you can, but there's still so much elements of uncertainty where it kind of requires you to just, maybe react and make some, split minutes decisions that you just, there's no way to prepare to make a decision like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
got it. Yeah, got to respond pretty quickly. Yeah, makes sense.
Mhm.
Jane, anything to add to that? In your opinion, why does a crisis prompt a reactive approach in so many people?
I have to agree with Michelle. I think that the nature of crisis, with it being so unpredictable and often terrible, that we don't have a way to be prepared for that. And because we aren't probably sitting in that reflection daily and saying, here's some of the outcomes that I could face today. I know I have these 4 appointments. I could go to this one and a client might fly off the handle about something. How can I be prepared for that? I think because we don't really prepare for crisis like we do hurricanes, we end up having to just respond when they come. And so I think that was probably one of the biggest takeaways from what John was saying and from what Michelle just said, that maybe if we took some time to just really prepare ourselves for a multiplicity of responses. So like these are all the things that I'm facing today, and these are the things that could possibly happen. Case in point, today I was seeing a client in a development where I know that I tend to have a strained relationship at the gate. And so I stopped before I got there and I started saying to myself, if I get to the gate and have a rough experience, I'm just going to breathe. I'm going to be very, very calm. I'm going to be very, very whatever. So I think that's probably where where the response to crisis comes in that we don't really spend enough time hearing.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. So,
Mhm.
so similarly, sometimes we're in the middle of it. We got to respond, but if we can take time to step back and be prepared, we're going ahead and giving us some of the reasons how we can combat that. But
Yes.
yeah, Melissa, anything to add to that? What's your thought?
So yeah, that's the thing about crisis, is that this fear just builds up in you. And I'm sorry, I'm hearing the feedback too, but hopefully you hear me. But this fear, we just go into this fear mode in times of crisis, and we don't tend to take a step back and think about the situation we're in. We just react. I think it's just this thing that's made and built within us to react to fear quickly, I guess, to save our lives. So it's something that we just have to develop over time, knowing that when you're in a situation, crisis mode, to be able to take some time to think about what your response should be. Ahead of time, it would be the best time to do that, like Dwayne was saying. But just being able to take a moment and think about how you're going to react instead of just always being reactive. I think it's important. Yeah, but so many people, they don't have that tool to use to say, okay, let me take a minute and think about how I'm going to respond in this situation. Because I think it's just human nature to just jump in times of crisis and in times of fear.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys for that. Okay, Dwayne, I think I'll come to you on this one here for this next one. Why might reflection be an effective antidote to reactive living? So why might reflection be a good antidote to reactive living?
I think we learned it in the video today. What we reflect on, we act on. So I think that if we have those moments where we start thinking of all of the things, like one of the immediate things I'm going to take into my practice today is spending time reflecting at the end of the day, of the things that happened today. I think if we get to that point and really just, really sit in saying, no, this is what happened today, this is what I had control over, this is what I didn't have control over, these are the outcomes of both of those things. I think as you start getting more experience in the process of reflection, you stop being so reactive, because you start kind of building a picture of different things that could potentially happen. And then you realize there's really not a reason for me to react to everything. So I think it's effective because it just gives you experience. It gives you experience in different things that could potentially happen. So that's how I think it would be effective for me.
Yeah. So it gives you the opportunity to review what you may have done, right? That's so true, because you find yourself in that situation, you respond like you're saying, and then you can react, reflect on it. You can sort of gauge how you can do the next time.
And my growth. What did I learn what I did when the day started?
Say that again, Dwayne.
And the response, so being able to chart my own progress in the reflective process. So say, at the end of the day, say, what did I learn today? What did I come out of this day with that I didn't start it with? Because I think that growth would also help, to be able to look through the process and just say, wow, I'm getting somewhere, in this reflection as a result of the reflection.
Yeah. Very good.
Yes.
Good.
And I'm just going to share Dax Dunn's comment here. Take a deep breath.
Yes.
So many times if you notice, when we're dealing in crisis, if you kind of look at it, you are kind of holding back, you're clenched, you're, holding your breath, and just being in that mode of just reflection, including taking some deep breaths, calming your mind, calming your physical self, can help you to respond better to, instead of just being reactive and jumping as soon as you hear crisis is in effect.
Very good. Very good from Dax, huh? All right, Dax. Thanks for jumping in.
Dax Dunn.
Yeah. Okay, so Michelle, same question to you. Why might reflection be an effective antidote to reactive thinking?
I think reflection is great because it gives you an opportunity to kind of look outside of yourself and just look back and take responsibility um, for the day, and maybe even give yourself a little grace for not maybe doing everything the way you hoped it would, come out, or the way you planned. So I think doing that just gives us an opportunity to make a different decision if we find ourselves in a similar situation. Um, and yeah, just I guess it's just a good way to kind of um, close out that chapter for the day, or a particular event, or whatever the case may be. So I think it gives us some closure as to, and kind of a summary, and a kind of direction as to what to do next, or if we're in the same situations again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Makes a lot of sense. So not only learn, but figure out what to do next. So it gives you a sort of the opportunity to end your day, give yourself grace for maybe things you didn't do well, is what I hear you saying, Michelle, and then also make plans for how you're going to move forward. Makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for sharing. Melissa, did you have anything to add before I go to the next question? Or
Well, I kind of mixed up what Dax said with my response, but
okay,
yeah, I mean, I would say that reflection, just being able to think for a moment, is very effective, because a lot of times the way you would normally react, if you think about it, you're just not gonna respond the same way if you just give it some time. The majority of us, when we react, a lot of times after that, you have regret because you just jumped in and gave a response without thinking about it.
yeah,
And you appreciate it so much when you just take that little extra time and think about the response before. You feel a lot more confidence in how you move forward, and it's a well thought out plan of action, and you just feel better about it rather than just jumping off the cliff, or jumping into anger, jumping into a dispute or argument, or whatever, however you deal with things when you're in crisis mode. So yeah.
very good.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a little personal now. Michelle, I'll come back to you on this one here to start off. So do you struggle to practice reflection, and why?
Do you struggle with? I'm sorry.
Do you struggle to practice
Oh.
reflection, and why?
No, I wouldn't say I struggle. Maybe the to do the practice of reflection, no. But I guess to reflect in such a way where it's productive, that's probably a little bit of a struggle, because if I'm not careful, reflection can lead to worry, which is not helpful or productive at all. So there's a struggle with that, I think, with the reflection turning into, oh my goodness, what if, so I think, yes, from that perspective, but at least I know well enough that I know that that's not a productive road I need to or want to go down. So, I can kind of pivot and direct myself in a more productive direction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is maybe reflection can lead to worry and fear, and so so maybe you might not dive in as much as you could or should, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not that I won't, but it's just that I have to be cognizant that tendency, and really make sure that I'm being productive in the reflection.
Got it. Very good. Very good.
I'll second that with Michelle, even though I think Michelle is a little bit more evolved than I am because I struggle, yes. It's something that I really, because a lot of times I'm doing things so quickly, day-to-day stuff. I have to respond. So usually, even in times of crisis, I'm quick to respond. So yeah, it's just a daily thing that I have to work on to try and get better at taking that extra moment of kind of stepping aside from a situation and thinking about it. Because yes, I'm very quick to just respond. So yeah, I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress. I'm getting older, but I still have quite a bit more time that I have to try and get better at that. But yeah, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense. I think what I hear you saying there is that we go from one activity to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. So sometimes it's hard to stop.
Yes, definitely.
Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne, anything to add to that? To what Michelle and Melissa have shared in regards to, do you struggle to practice reflection and why?
I don't. So I'm always in my head. So I don't struggle with reflection. I struggle with what to do after I've reflected, because I have a tendency to work myself into and out of emotions. So I try my best. I'm always in my thoughts, always. So now that I'm having a conversation with you all,
I'm not hearing you too well. I don't know if there's anything you can do.
Yeah.
You're not hearing me?
Oh, that's better. Yeah,
okay.
Here you go.
Okay, so I was just saying, I don't struggle with reflection. I struggle with what to do after I've reflected. So I think that's going to be my biggest takeaway, just being effective in the reflective process. So thinking about things and looking at how the day went is great. But if I end up taking that after a very stressful day to be more stressed about the fact that I didn't get more done, then that reflection could almost become a reaction. So I want to be very mindful of that in the process.
So true.
Very interesting. Wow. So in other words, you kind of think things and you overthink things, or you get
every day.
Mm-hmm.
Right now.
Relate.
Got it. Very good. Thank you. What do you think about John? John is very specific about Dwayne. I'll come back to you again on this one. John is very specific about his reflection path. Right? He has specific things that he asks himself, and ultimately leads to the action part of it. What do you think about that path that he shared? Just quickly, what's your thought?
Yeah, I think it's great. I followed his teachings for a long time, and I think just being intentional about how we reflect is great. I'm going to adopt some of these principles, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, what do you think about John's reflection path?
Yeah, I think the main takeaway I got from it is that to reflect without taking action when you need to, it's like, just doesn't make sense, right? So I think that's my main takeaway, that reflection should lead to positive action. Yeah.
Walk down another street.
What's that, Dwayne?
Like you said, walk down another street.
Yeah.
Melissa,
I agree with that too. It's, it's just, because I like the process that he walked through when it comes to that. But just for my own personal growth, it's just important that because it's almost necessary. It's necessary to reflect and then to act in a way that's positive. So it's like, it's just one of those things that you just want to become a better person. And part of that growth includes being better at how you respond to things. So, it was good to see that.
Yeah. I love his definition, which you probably heard before, of insanity, right? Doing the same things over and over,
Yes.
expecting a different result,
Yes,
right?
definitely. Yes.
All right. So John, let's change the go to the second one that John was talking about there. Why does authentic, and Michelle, I'm coming to you on this one. Why does authenticity make us more relatable to others? Why does authenticity make us more relatable to others?
I think especially now in this like era of like social media, reality TV, right? Um, I think it's even more so important just to just be you, like whoever that is and whatever that looks like. And I think in doing so, it's very revealing, right? Because you're just, all of us come with faults and strengths and, weaknesses. And I think that just being confident enough to showcase that, I think is just very appealing to people because it just makes you more relatable, or you might see something, someone do something or say something, and it's like, well, I didn't know anyone else felt like that. I feel like that too, as opposed to just putting on this facade of perfection and or what you're supposed to say or look like or whatever, you know what I mean? So I think it's just even more so important now because everything is out there, reality TV, social media. So it's just so important to just be willing to be vulnerable and just show that to people.
And
Yes.
relate more to that, huh?
Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah.
True. It's
Yeah.
I know sometimes we see things out there and we think that everything is hunky dory, and sometimes that is it's not. It might not be all hunky dory to me.
Yeah.
And it's so
Well, people, what I realize is that people like people that are most like themselves. So when they can connect with you on a certain level with a certain struggle, I mean, I heard somebody say the other day, there's two stories in this world, one of struggle and one of progress. And there's a lot of people that have been through that have the story of struggle. And when you can just be authentic and share those struggles, you don't know who has actually been through that same situation that is, being helped by that story that you have been through.
Yeah.
So just being authentic, I mean, it just makes you more relatable because people can see them in you and be encouraged by, especially if you've been able to become successful. That's when being even more authentic is helpful to so many people, to show them the struggle that you went through and to basically pick somebody else up out of whatever they're going through to realize, oh, if she can do it, I can do it too. So I think it's really important, especially once you have some measure of success, to really be authentic with people and not try to pretend like you haven't been through any struggles or any problems, So.
very good.
Mhm.
People are drawn. People are drawn to
Exactly.
themselves, and even give them hope is what I hear you saying.
Yes.
Definitely.
That's awesome. Wayne, anything to add to that, sir?
Yeah.
Why does authenticity make us more relatable to others?
Absolutely, because this has been one of like the themes of this chapter of my life, and I think he was one of my biggest aha moments when he said that the greatest way for us to identify is to say, "I know what you're going through," and I think it was really powerful because we don't lean into adversity, and I think that when people, as Melissa just shared, when people know that your success story is not just all success. When they can see that there are moments leading up to it. Someone said to me the other day in a social media post, because I tend to like to present things finished. I don't want to post something if it's not high quality. And someone said, people like the progress. People want to see that there was a process to you getting to where this ultimately got. Like when you just show someone something done, it's like, well, it's great, but the real value is to see how it got done. So I think in live, there's a lot of vulnerability and authenticity. And sometimes I think our fear of what people are going to do with our vulnerable spaces is why we don't just lean into more fully. But when we start saying,
why we call what, Wayne? Say that again.
Our fear of what people will do with our vulnerability. So we're wanting to be authentic, but in that we want to share, part of our process, but we don't know what people will do if we tell them we've had a background of a certain nature. So those types of things, I think, keep us and become barriers to authenticity. But when we start kind of owning that for ourselves and not being as concerned with perception, it does make us relatable, and people know it. People can sense it right away when you're showing up. When you're putting on, I think people have become better judges that this is not who you are.
Yes, absolutely.
Good stuff. Michelle, in the same light, John talked about the fact that failure and success are inseparable. They're together. Do you believe that? And what's your thought on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think we need to experience the contrast to know what we don't want. What when you're experiencing something and you're like, this does not feel good. I don't want to live like this. Don't want to be like this. Then it creates some contrast. So at least what you don't want. And then, when you're climbing yourself out of that and you get to a space or, even like a small accomplishment where you feel, yes, this is it, right? So then it kind of gives you like that assurance that, this is what I need to always be striving to, versus this is where I'm making a decision that, where I don't want to be. So I think those contrasts, we need them. I mean, that's the way we kind of discover ourselves and know what we want in life, know which direction to take. So I think it's very important.
So good.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
So, Melissa, you talked a little bit about, having failures along the way to success and so on. So my question to you is, how has failure shaped your life?
Oh wow, that's a loaded question. I thought I was getting the question about failure and its success, but okay. Okay, so I'll combine the two
together. Very much together.
Yes, I'll combine the two, because I don't think I've met any successful person that's gotten there without a lot of mistakes, failures. I mean, that seems to be a pretty common story with people that have achieved success. And I'm not talking about money, riches. I'm talking about like the whole package of success. It usually includes quite a bit of failure and falling down. And that I have a lot of. I wouldn't say that I've reached, my ultimate goals. But one thing that I've learned is that every failure, every disappointment, every letdown has always brought me to another level. It's always been a way of me learning a lesson to be able to either avoid something in the future or to just enable me to be stronger in character to deal with other issues. It just seems to be just par for the course. Like you just have to have those mistakes and failures and letdowns to be able to get to the next level, to the ultimate goal of success. And I don't think I would want success without having some disappointments and some failures and some letdowns. Because what is success without that? It's like, how can you truly be happy about something if you didn't have a lot of struggle to get there? So I don't know. I've heard some people say, well, just try me. just try me and see if that, but I think I truly appreciate all of the things that I've been through, all of the struggles and everything else on my journey to success.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you for that. And I think sometimes it's good for me to hear that, good for others to hear that.
Yes.
So Dwayne, Michelle and Melissa have pretty answered that question pretty well. But I don't think you have anything to add to that, sir?
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, just that I wholeheartedly agree. I think that, looking at the relationship between the two, I said it in our chat that we have to experience that contrast. I don't have anything to add. I think it was beautifully said.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Melissa, I see you have something there.
Yes, Michelle said failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the success. I truly believe that. 100%. Yes.
I like that, actually.
Yes.
Capture that from me, right? Capture that from me, Melissa.
Capture it.
Not the opposite of success. It's
part of the success. Yes.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate you jumping in like that.
Yeah.
All right. So during times of crisis, do we have time? Where are we doing on time?
Yeah, we have 10 minutes.
All right. So Dwayne, I'm coming back to you on this one.
Okay.
During times of crisis, how can being relatable to others be beneficial? So during times of crisis, how can being relatable be beneficial to others?
I think that it's back to the conversation about authenticity. When people feel like you're not going through anything and they are, then it makes them feel alone. And when John said, adversity kind of closes the gap, I think that crisis is one of the greatest opportunities for us. Just to say that, hey, I'm aware of what's happening. I don't like it as much as you do. It's having those types of conversations in crisis are important, because I think that for a long time we conditioned ourselves to feel like we had to act like everything was great even in crisis.
Yeah.
And I think that empathy with others is so helpful, because when people are working through the negative emotion, you say, oh, everything's great, it's all rainbows and lollipops, and they're like, but okay, then they start feeling a deficiency in themselves.
Yes.
Versus you saying, things aren't great, but this is not where it ends. Having that, using it as that angle to have a conversation about what's happening next is back to, reflection, having these conversations that are effective, so that people know that this is not the end of the story. That's one of the biggest pieces, I think, another takeaway for me, because once people understand that you understand, those connections start to begin. Those connections begin.
Very good. So you're connecting, you're helping people. What I hear you saying is people who are maybe lonesome, they have a buddy now, they have somebody they can relate to and get together with, and then also talk about giving hope. It can help spread hope to people. That's good stuff. Michelle, anything to add to that? How can being relatable to others be beneficial in times of crisis?
Yeah, I think it just it reminds us that we're not alone in this. Crisis is something that typically you're going through with someone, and again, just being vulnerable to say, yeah, I'm feeling it too. I think that's important, just to let people know that you're not alone. It's you and I, kind of going through this together, and we will get through it. I think it's just an opportunity to deepen relationships in that way.
So deepen relationships. We're in this together, and we get through it. Yeah, very good. Melissa, anything to add?
And Sandy is saying empathy is very important, to just strengthen what Michelle said. And that's so true. I mean, knowing that you have someone that can feel what you're feeling, and understand, maybe they went through it as well. I mean, that's a powerful thing, to have somebody else there. I mean, there's really nothing new under the sun. Sometimes we just feel like we're the only one that went through something. back to being authentic. As soon as you start opening up, you're going to find other people that have been through the same situation. And then, yes, you can strengthen that relationship by being able to encourage each other through, it's probably different circumstances, but pretty much the same thing. And you can find that you can relate a lot better through those shared experiences. Thank you, Sandy.
Yeah. So I hear the togetherness coming out quite a bit on this one, and we can get through it together. So we're giving each other hope and strength and all the other stuff that comes along with that.
Right.
For you guys saying. That's awesome. So let's think about being relatable. So we've talked about some of the benefits, advantages of being relatable. John talked about it from a sharing your struggles standpoint. But let's think of someone who you find to be very relatable, right? So who's someone that you find to be relatable? You don't have to tell me their name or anything like that, Michelle. I'm coming to you with this one. But just think of that person and then answer this question. What is it about that person that you relate to? So think about the person, someone who's very relatable, and then think about what it is about that person that you relate to.
That I personally relate to? Okay.
So this is someone who you find relatable. And then what is it about that person that you relate to?
I often, sometimes I don't hear myself speaking, and sometimes someone will hear me speaking and they're like, wow, you were really like forthright in saying what you needed to say to that person. Like, I'm scared of you kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, I didn't mean to be, that way. So I think the people's directness, someone that's relatable, that can be very direct and say what they mean, but they're not saying it to be harsh or anything like that, but they're still able to somehow convey what needs to be said. I think that's a very strong trait and something that I hope that I do. So I find that I might be a little bit, maybe others might judge them harsher, but I might be like, no, I get it. It's okay. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that answers the question. But.
Yeah, it sure does. So you relate to people who tell it like it is, right? And
yes.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, and you added that not in a way to like be harsh or anything like that, but to tell it like it is. You like that? Yeah, very good. Thank you for that. Dwayne, same question to you, sir. Think of someone. I'm sure you thought of somebody. Who's someone you find relatable? And then answer that same question. What is it about that person that you relate to?
The person that I thought of, I think the thing I relate to the most is success. And John said something that made me chuckle because I knew exactly when he said it. He said, "I'm worn out by success." And I think for me, I'm worn out of being around people who aren't being authentic about their success. So this person, I relate to him because of the authenticity behind his success. And the fact that whenever he speaks to me, he's never talking from the aspect of where he is right now. It's like, this is how I got here. So I relate to that, that willingness to share the journey and to invite people. So that's kind of my point of relation to success that is framed appropriately.
So somebody not afraid of sharing, their journey, inviting you into their journey. Is that what I hear you saying? Yeah. Very good. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, sir. And Melissa, last but not least.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Robin.
I'm sure you thought of somebody first of all, right?
Yes, I did.
And then what is it about that person that you relate to?
So one thing that I thought about is that I would say is very relatable. It's someone that if something is done wrong to them, they forgive pretty quickly, and they don't hold grudges. That's one thing that, man, that just wears me out when I see some people just carrying this heavy load of grudges against people like for years. I don't know if it's because of my memory sometimes that I just don't remember sometimes. I don't remember what bad thing you did to me, so that's why
I forgot to be mad at you.
I forgot to be mad. But I just don't like that feeling, carrying that feeling. So I let things go pretty quickly. Like, I don't think you'll ever hear me saying, "Oh my goodness, that person did something to me 10 years ago. I don't want to talk to them," or to me, that's too much work, and chances are that person probably is a different person now, and they're still carrying around some load. So yeah, that person that I thought of is just very forgiving and open to people making mistakes, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Just
That's awesome. It's a good way to wind it down. You guys gave some good instruction there to help you be more relatable. So be direct, tell it like it is. Invite people on the journey. Help them see the journey that you've been on, and be up to grace. Be gracious. Be forgiving. Those are three good things I think that I can take away from it that will help you to be more relatable. So. Thank you for sharing. A good way to kind of wind it down.
Yes.
Yes. Another rich discussion with you guys.
Yes. And I want to thank you again so much, Robin. Little technical difficulties this time. I know some people couldn't really hear too well. We will fix that next time. Don't worry. And I know a lot of people listen after the broadcast, probably more than listen while it's live. So we will be posting the session later this evening. So feel free to share it with others. Hopefully it will be an encouragement to them. And if you missed any of the broadcast, like the broadcast from before, we'll also be posting that. Or if you would like for us to send a link to you, you can email us at livetalk@mmillergroup.com. Our next broadcast will be on August 18th at 5 p.m. And until then, stay safe and stay positive. And thank you for joining us again. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.